Help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
So, is this the final stand for Dillon Gabriel? Will this be the final real opportunity Dillon Gabriel has to build up some positive sentiment about his time as the starting quarterback? On one hand, I have to evaluate what I'm watching when it comes to Dillon, and what I've been watching is not great quarterback play. On the other hand, much like I had the same sympathy with Joe Flacco when he was out there, and more than likely for whichever quarterback's out there after Dillon Gabriel, whether it be Shador, Bailey Zapp, whatever. I do have some sympathy for the position that the quarterback has been put into this year. It just feels like a no-win position, and it feels like it's very difficult to thrive at the quarterback position. I say it once, I'm going to say it a bunch of times. The Browns' problems are just bigger than what most quarterbacks can solve. And if I'm being honest with you, I think there's like 7 quarterbacks in the NFL who could walk into the Browns offense and make something happen with it on a positive level. It's not shade to anybody. That's just what the situation is. You need a top 7 quarterback right now with the issues that you have on offense to be able to overcome them at the quarterback position. That's just the reality of it. So, yeah, I have my criticism of Dillon because I have to evaluate what I'm seeing, and what I'm seeing is not good. But I also understand that Joe Flacco, who has played good football in Cincinnati, albeit with better weapons, looked just as bad as Dillon did these last few weeks, in his last few weeks as a starter. The same stuff that people are saying about Dillon Gabriel needing to be benched so you could play Shador, it's the same exact stuff that we said 4 weeks ago when Joe Flacco was in there. And it turned out that, the problems were just bigger than Joe Flacco. You put Joe Flacco in a place where the problems aren't bigger than him in Cincinnati, and he turns out to still be able to play some quarterback. I think the same could be true for Dillon Gabriel. I think that Dillon Gabriel is capable of playing quarterback better than what he's playing right now. But the reality is that he's not bigger than these problems, and these problems on offense are just devouring him. The same way they devoured Joe Flacco and will likely devour whoever the next quarterback is. Not because those quarterbacks can't play at the NFL level, because I know when Shador gets out there, if he struggles, people are going to be like, see, he's not even an NFL prospect. And that's bullshit, right? Like, I think Shador's an NFL prospect, Dillon's an NFL prospect, but they're not going to look as good as they could look right now just because the problems on the offense are just so drastic. It's the reality of the situation, right? If people got out of being a hater or a fanboy of whatever player that they're being a hater or a fanboy of, and actually looked at this thing with some sense, I think most people would be able to see that. But we get so caught up in our camps, pointing fingers, who's good, who's not, my guy versus your guy, I'm right versus you're wrong, that people will convince themselves that everything's fine on the Browns offense. They just need better quarterback play. And then when their quarterback gets in there and struggles, all of a sudden they see those problems. And the people who've been talking about the problems for the last 8 weeks automatically get amnesia about it, right? When it comes time to blame the guy that they want to blame. So much of what sports talk has turned into, I get so tired of. I don't know if that's been coming across recently in my videos, but it's just the same old tired narratives, right? And I that's why it's difficult for me to sit here and just completely shit on Dillon, because I don't think all of this stuff is Dillon Gabriel's problem. And I think this has just been a problem with the Browns offense overall, and it will continue to be a problem with the Browns offense overall. Now, what could Dillon Gabriel do to make sure that he can go into next week as the starter? I think obviously you want him to play well, but what does that look like, right? Clearly you want turnover-free football. The last 2 weeks have been turnover heavy. I'm skeptical of if this play calling change is going to help that specifically. I would imagine if you're changing play caller, it's because you want to go into a more aggressive philosophy that maybe the Kevin Stefanski approach allows. That has to be a part of the decision there. And if you're going to have a more aggressive philosophy by nature, you're going to put the ball at risk more. Now, the issue with Dillon Gabriel has been his accuracy and his ability to push the ball downfield has created a lot of his interception opportunities. I don't think those two things change because the play caller is different. I think the Browns are going to probably put the ball in danger more often. But if Dillon Gabriel can play that more aggressive style of football successfully without turning the ball over, then we have something to talk about right now, right? But if he kind of looks how he looked last week, where he was trying to be aggressive and a lot of like bad balls down the field in the week before that, or anytime he's been in garbage time where he's thrown a lot of turnover worthy plays, then obviously it's not going to look good for Dillon Gabriel going forward. We got to be honest about where Dillon is. He's in a no-win situation right now. If he beats the Jets, nobody's going to like throw a parade for him or even like give him more than, oh, well, it gives him an extra week. If he loses this game, then everybody's going to be screaming for him to be benched, and he's going to walk into week 7, or not week 7, I'm tripping on that, walk into the Baltimore game in Cleveland with a lot of animosity built up towards him. That's not really even Dillon Gabriel's fault. Like, I feel like the fan base is just going to take out their frustrations on the offense, the season, Kevin Stefanski, all on Dillon Gabriel as a rookie, because he's kind of the embodiment of all of that stuff, unfortunately, right? He's this small, undersized quarterback who people perceive cannot throw the ball downfield. He's not exciting to watch, and he's holding you back from playing Shedeur Sanders, who a lot of people in the fan base believe might be able to make a difference here. We have yet to see if that's true, but he's just kind of the perfect scapegoat for a lot of people's frustration. And that's like super unfortunate for him, right? He's been put in a pretty shit situation. Like, I've always contended, the guy who has suffered the most from the Browns taking Shedeur Sanders in the 5th is Dillon Gabriel. That has completely changed the outlook of how fans view him. That has completely changed the amount of patience fans were going to have for him. If the Browns fucked over anybody by drafting Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round, they fucked over Dillon Gabriel, right? Like, the ideal of him getting a fair shot was dead the second that they took Shedeur in the 5th round, especially with the fan base. Maybe inside that building he gets a fair shake, but within the fan base, within the public, it's impossible. More people want to see Shedeur, whether it's right or wrong. People built Shedeur up as this first-round pick, especially if you're watching like traditional media. The online media stuff wasn't as high on Shedeur. I think a lot of people were late first round, early second round kind of grades on Shedeur, similar to what I had. So like him falling out the first round wasn't a big surprise to me. But if you had only been watching traditional media coverage about Shedeur Sanders, you would have been convinced he was going to be a top 5 pick because of the way that they were using his name to get ratings during the draft process. So you got a lot of people who watch ESPN, who watch that kind of stuff, who have been told all summer that this guy's a top 5 pick. He goes into the 5th round. You're thinking, oh, the Browns got gifted a top 5 pick in the 5th round. That's not what actually happened, but that's what people are perceiving to have happened. And they're going to want to see that guy. They're always going to want, especially when the guy in front of him is Dillon Gabriel, who not a lot of people were familiar of. It was his college game. If people were, it was because he was like the Case Keenum of college football. Just a shitty situation for the guy to be put in. I do think the Browns should reckon with that they put this guy in such a shit situation. And that maybe, just maybe, sometimes they ought to think about the people stuff when they make decisions. This is my biggest pet peeve about Andrew Berry specifically and Kevin Stefanski. They don't think about the people stuff. Even when they're doing a good job, they don't think about the people stuff enough, right? And the people stuff has been beating their ass, right? The public relations of this football team. No disrespect to any people who work in the Browns organization, but I'm just being real. The public relations of this football team over the last 4 years has been a disaster. It's been a disaster. It's been bad, right? It's been poor public relations as far as the ability to communicate critical information to the fans, leaving a lot of room for conspiracy theory. It's been horrible communication as far as how to get information out about these players. I also think one of the things that goes under the radar is like, hey, like, isn't it PR's job to get these players prepared for the type of fan base that Cleveland is? And too often people are shocked that Cleveland's fan base is not just passionate in the positive direction, they're passionate in a negative direction, right? If you work for the Philadelphia Eagles and the fans are booing a player, they prepared a player for that, I would imagine, because that's something that Philly is known for. It seems like every time it happens in Cleveland, which is very often, I love the city to death, but, I'm from it. It's a very angry city, let's be real, right? Like, every time it happens, people are caught off guard. Just everything that has to do about PR and the Browns, how they've gotten this message out, the situation that they put Dillon in. And that's more of an Andrew Berry thing, the situation they put Dillon in a PR thing, which is they haven't done a good job of putting guys in positions where the fan base is going to like them, right? It's been an uphill battle almost every time, right? They're not building a lot of baby faces, right? If you're a wrestling fans, they're not good at building baby face. We're WWF in 1995 level of shitty at building baby faces in the Browns organization. There's very few players that people feel great about right now or have a positive feeling about, and that sucks, right? But back to Dillon Gabriel, and my complaints. Oh, well, not my complaints, but like what kind of situation he's in. And I think the reality is he's in a no-win situation right now. He's kind of just sitting in the middle of the street, if I'm being honest. If he plays well this week, if he dodges that car, then it's not really going to be a celebration for him. He's not going to cross that road, right? And the game you play next week is against a surging Baltimore Ravens team who, yeah, you're playing them at home, but I mean, do you feel great about that at all right now? It's tough. It's tough. This is a tough situation for Dillon, but this is the situation the Cleveland Browns put him in. And I don't hear people talk about that nearly enough. There's a lot of conversation about did the Browns sabotage Shador, all of this other stuff. But ultimately, Shador is going to be put in a favorable situation to where the fan base is going to be happy to see him out there. Dillon is the guy who has not been put in a situation to be embraced by the fan base at any step of the way. And it's almost as if they don't think about that ever when they make these decisions, and they don't think that those kind of things can affect how a player plays, despite the fact that they have lived through the destruction of Deshaun Watson's career firsthand, right front row seat. Drives me crazy. The people stuff matters. I hope they understand that one day, because if they don't, they will continue to make these same mistakes. Now, let's talk about my sponsor, Sleeper. Got my picks in for this week. We got 4 picks here ready for this weekend of football. Now that the Browns are back, these could be Browns related again. Garrett Wilson going up against the Browns. I think that he won't have a super big chunk play on the Browns. Now, that's a gamble because Tyson Campbell has had a history of giving up chunk plays. But I think Denzel Ward is going to follow him for most of the game, and that's going to keep his longest reception under 21 yards. Dillon Gabriel, they have his line at like rush yards at 7.5. I think that he's going to have some rush lanes available to him in this game, and he's going to take those rush lanes. I think he'll have more than 7.5 yards. Jerry Jeudy, I think this is the game where they finally get Jerry. Like, you've changed the play caller. You get Jerry Jeudy going. You get Jerry Jeudy the ball. I think over 37.5 yards is fair. And I think over 3.5 receptions is fair as well. Those are my picks for this weekend. Let me know what you would do in the comment section down below. And if you want to join in the fun, join Sleeper. Get a 100% match on up to $100 when you join using the promo code WORSTTAKE. Okay, so the Browns made a play caller change. I don't know how much of a difference that's going to make. I do wonder if the return of like Cedric Tillman makes more of a difference there. They might be without Harold Fainin, but it's last I heard he practiced on Friday. The same thing is true of Carson Schlesinger. So maybe getting a guy like Cedric Tillman back is going to be important. Maybe letting it loose a little bit would be important for Dillon Gabriel. I don't want to put too much on the play caller change just because I don't like last year they did it. I think Daniel Ofuise put out a great article about it where the Browns changed play caller last year and their points per game went down. So it's not like there's evidence that Kevin turning over the play calling responsibilities leads to positive results. Honestly, might be a little bit of a shot in the arm this week, maybe next week, but usually the results start to thin out and then they get worse and worse and worse. I don't think Kevin's issue as a head coach, is his ability as a play caller. I think that's one of his strengths as a head coach. I think Kevin's issues as a head coach is his ability to adapt during the game and his ability to evolve a offense. I think that's been the biggest disappointment with Kevin Stefanski is his ability to adapt when teams catch up during a game on what he's doing, right? And then overall, the long term, right? The long term version of that, which is evolving. His evolutions of this offense have been underwhelming, and his ability to adapt has also been proven to be underwhelming. His ability as a play caller, people make a big deal out of it. He's not a bad play caller. I see a lot worse play callers in the NFL. I would actually put him in the upper half of play callers in the NFL. I know it's going to be controversial because a lot of people get mad about like one or two specific play calls here and there. But most of the time when I'm watching the Browns on tape, the play calling's not my complaint, right? And all 22 doesn't lie. It's more or less, why are we doing some of the bigger things in the offense that the Browns are doing and the lack of evolution in what the Browns have done over the last few years. So, I don't think the play calling is going to make that much of a difference. Maybe Dillon opens it up a little bit more. Maybe he has success there, but we've seen Dillon open it up more the last couple of weeks. Doesn't make me think that that's going to lead to a ton of success here. I think if you're a Browns fan, you just want to see this offense be more functional, right? I don't think anybody's expecting good. I don't think anybody ever expected good out this offense, but I do think people were hoping for functional. And right now they are a very dysfunctional offense. So let's just start that digging to get out of the bottom of the NFL when it comes to offense this week. We'll see what the success rate's going to be for them. They've had a 32% success rate all season. I think they're like 5 points below even the Jets offense, which has been anemic. So we'll see what the Browns offense can muster up this week. But I said this in an earlier video. I want to repeat it. Don't take the Jets lightly today. The Jets are not just going to roll over and let you beat them. The Jets are probably going to give you one of their toughest efforts of the season this game because they got a lot to prove, right? There's a lot of guys who are going to get opportunities that haven't gotten opportunities all season that are going to be excited, right? Aaron Glenn's going to get those guys ready. So I would not think that the Jets are just going to let you walk in and roll over them. I don't think the Jets are ready to give up. I think the Jets are ready to give you their best fight of the season. And I think they're going to play their best football of the season in the second half, despite the fact that they made all those trades. What they're aiming to do is the same thing that they did in Detroit, right? Which is ship off a bunch of guys, give a bunch of new guys opportunity, and let that juice carry them the rest of the season so that they play hard and that can win you games. And the Browns aren't a team that's better than a team playing hard and beating them, right? So I seriously think it would be a mistake to just assume the Browns are going to win this game and assume they're going to walk all over the Jets. I think the Jets are going to fight like hell for the rest of the season. And we'll see what that turns into win-loss wise. But I think it starts here in this game versus Cleveland because, as much as Browns fans are taking this game for granted, I've heard Browns fans complaining about this game more than anything. Oh, man, we're going to win this game versus New York and ruin our draft positioning. As if we're like we're way too early in the season to be worried about like wins and losses. That's a December conversation, not a November conversation. But it's also like, do you not realize the Jets are looking at this Browns game as one of their most winnable games left on the schedule? Like, who do we think we are that we're just going to walk in and beat anybody? We're 2-6. We have a 32% success rate on offense. We're not a lock to beat anybody. Have we won a game on the road this year? When's the last? We haven't won a game on the road since last year, week 2, against the goddamn Jaguars. And people are just out here like taking a win for granted as if the Browns are just magically going to be entitled to this victory. Who the fuck are we to be entitled to anything? Yeah, I think a lot of people have the wrong attitude here. And look, people are going to be pissed off if the Jets give you a game or if the Jets win this game, but it's more than possible. It's probable that they're going to give you a game. We're just as bad as them. Like, for whatever reason, this fan base swings between woe is me and complete arrogance on a week by week basis. And I just don't understand it because nothing about the Cleveland Browns says that anything about Sunday is guaranteed. But we'll see what happens. I'll be there to watch it. And you want to watch it live with me, make sure you join the live stream. We'll be starting at 1 o'clock. But y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.